After my wife died, I told my children I had nothing left. No savings, no investments, no insurance. I told them the medical bills had wiped us out. I told them I could barely afford to keep the lights on. None of it was true. My wife and I had $1.2 million in assets, a paid-off house, a retirement fund, 2 life insurance policies, an investment portfolio she'd managed for 30 years. We weren't rich, but we were far from broke. I lied to my own children because my wife asked me to. 3 weeks before she died, she grabbed my hand and said, "Edward, when I'm gone, tell them there's nothing left. Tell them we spent it all on my treatment, and then watch. Watch what they do when they think there's nothing to inherit." I did exactly what she asked. And what happened next showed me things about my children I wish I'd never seen. But it also showed me something I'll carry for the rest of my life. Who among them truly loved me? And who was just waiting for me to die? Before we go any further, thank you for being here today. If this story already has your attention, take a moment and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. It truly helps this channel grow and reach more people who need to hear these stories. And a gentle reminder, while this story carries real emotions and real lessons, some names, details, and events have been fictionalized for narrative and educational purposes. Any resemblance to real individuals is coincidental, but the truth behind this message is what matters. Stay with me on this. My name is Edward Marsh. I'm 67 years old. I live in a house on Ridgewood Avenue in Charleston, South Carolina. It's a 3-bedroom craftsman that my wife, Lorraine, fell in love with in 1991. She saw it from the street, the wraparound porch, the oak tree in the front yard, the way the afternoon sun hit the windows, and said, "Edward, that's our house." We hadn't even been inside yet. We bought it 3 weeks later for $118,000. Lorraine and I were married for 36 years. She was the daughter of a math teacher and an accountant, which meant she grew up in a house where numbers were a language, and money was respected but never worshipped. She inherited both gifts. She could calculate a tip in her head faster than I could find my phone, and she treated every dollar we earned like a seed that needed to be planted, not spent. I worked at a civil engineering firm for 33 years. Started as a draftsman, retired as a project manager. Lorraine worked at the Charleston County School District as a financial analyst for 28 years. Between us, we made a good living, not extravagant, comfortable. The kind of comfortable that comes from 2 disciplined people who agreed early in their marriage that security mattered more than luxury. Lorraine managed our finances with the precision of a Swiss watchmaker. She maintained spreadsheets, actual, color-coded spreadsheets, tracking every investment, every account, every dollar that came in or went out. She rebalanced our portfolio quarterly. She maximized our tax deductions every year. She negotiated our mortgage rate 3 separate times, saving us over $40,000 in interest. By the time we turned 60, Lorraine had built something remarkable. A paid-off house worth $520,000, a retirement fund of $410,000, an investment portfolio of $180,000, 2 life insurance policies totaling $350,000, one on me, one on her. Total assets? Roughly $1.2 million after the insurance. She never told the children. Not the specific numbers, not the accounts, not the investments. She kept our financial life completely private, which I thought was excessive at the time. "Why can't we tell them?" I asked once. "They're our kids." Lorraine looked at me with those sharp brown eyes and said, "Because money changes how people see you. The moment your children know what you're worth, they stop seeing a father. They start seeing an estate." I thought she was being cynical. Lorraine had a dark streak when it came to human nature. She'd say things like, People are good until goodness stops being convenient. I'd laugh it off. I thought she was projecting her parents' frugality onto our family. I was wrong. Lorraine wasn't cynical. She was observant. And she was right about everything. Let me tell you about our children, because this story is a test, and you need to know the people being tested. We had 4 children. 4. Lorraine used to joke that we overproduced. 2 would have been sensible, 3 would have been generous, 4 was reckless. But she loved them all fiercely, even the ones who would eventually break her heart. Daniel, the oldest, born 1992. Daniel was the achiever. Everything he touched turned to success. Straight A's, football scholarship to Clemson, MBA, corner office at a consulting firm in Charlotte by 30. He made $200,000 a year and spent $210,000. That was Daniel's fundamental problem. He lived perpetually beyond his means. Nice house, nice car, nice suits, nice vacations. All of it financed by debt he never talked about. Rachel, second oldest, born 1994. Rachel was the artist. She studied photography at SCAD, moved to Brooklyn, and built a modest career shooting weddings and editorial work. She didn't make much money, maybe $45,000 in a good year, but she was independent. She never asked us for anything. She called every week. She visited twice a year and always brought Lorraine flowers. Marcus, third child, born 1997. Marcus was the problem. I say that with the heavy reluctance of a father who spent 20 years trying to call it something else. Marcus dropped out of college after 1 semester. He bounced between jobs: bartender, delivery driver, construction crew, none lasting more than 6 months. He borrowed money constantly, from us, from friends, from anyone who'd lend it. He had a talent for making his failures sound like bad luck, and his requests for money sound like temporary emergencies. Lorraine kept a running total. Over 15 years, we gave Marcus $87,000. Lorraine tracked every dollar. It's not a gift, Edward. It's a pattern. Sophia, the youngest, born 2000. Sophia was the quiet one. She became a veterinary technician in Charleston, working at an animal clinic 15 minutes from our house. She made $38,000 a year and never complained. She came to dinner every Wednesday. She helped Lorraine in the garden. She was the one who noticed when Lorraine started losing weight before the diagnosis. The one who drove her to the first doctor's appointment. The one who held her hand when the word cancer entered our lives. 4 children, 4 very different people, and Lorraine knew each of them better than they knew themselves. Lorraine was diagnosed with liver cancer in January 2023, stage 4. The oncologist used words like aggressive and advanced and limited options. Lorraine listened with the composure of a woman who'd spent her career analyzing worst-case scenarios. Then she asked the only question that mattered. How long? 6 to 12 months, possibly longer, with treatment. Lorraine chose treatment. Not because she believed it would save her, she was too rational for false hope, but because she needed time. Time to prepare, time to organize, time to execute a plan she'd been thinking about for longer than I realized. The first month after diagnosis, Lorraine did what Lorraine always did. She organized. She updated our will. She reviewed the trust she'd created years earlier, the Lorraine Marsh Family Trust, which held the house, the investments, and the insurance policies. She met with our lawyer, Jean Holloway, twice. She met with our financial advisor once. She made phone calls I wasn't part of and had conversations I wasn't invited to. I didn't question it. When Lorraine organized, you let her organize. It was like watching a general prepare for a battle she knew was coming. You didn't interrupt.
You just made sure she had what she needed.
Then one evening in February, about 3 weeks before she died, Lorraine asked me to sit with her on the porch. It was cold for Charleston, low 40s, but she wanted the fresh air. She was wrapped in a blanket, thin and pale, but her eyes were the same, sharp, focused, calculating. "Edward, I need to tell you something, and I need you to do exactly what I say." "Okay. When I die, I want you to tell the children that we're broke." I stared at her. "What?" "Tell them the medical bills wiped us out. Tell them the insurance lapsed. Tell them the investments are gone. Tell them the house has a second mortgage and you can barely make the payments. Tell them there's nothing left to inherit." "Lorraine, that's a lie. A massive lie." "I know, and I need you to tell it convincingly." "Why?" Lorraine was quiet for a moment. She pulled the blanket tighter and looked out at the oak tree in the front yard, the one that had been there since before we bought the house. Then she said something that I've replayed in my mind 1,000 times since. "Because I need to know, Edward. Before I die, I need to know which of our children love us and which ones love our money. I've suspected for years. I've watched Daniel's eyes go to the house every time he visits. I've tracked Marcus's requests for money and seen the pattern. I've noticed the questions. "Mom, have you thought about your estate? Dad, what happens to the house?" And I've kept a record." She reached under the blanket and pulled out a leather journal. "I've been documenting this for 3 years. Every question about money, every comment about the house, every time one of our children brought up inheritance or assets or what happens when we're gone. It's all in here." I took the journal. It was heavy, filled with Lorraine's precise handwriting, dated entries, specific quotes, a timeline of financial conversations that, when read together, painted a picture I didn't want to see. "Lorraine, this is a mother who loves her children enough to test them, not to punish them, to know the truth. Because, Edward, when I'm gone, you're going to be alone with them, and you need to know who you can trust." "What if the test shows me things I don't want to see?" "Then you'll see them while you still have time to protect yourself." I held that journal and looked at my wife, dying, frail, wrapped in a blanket on our porch. And I understood that this wasn't cruelty. This was the most loving thing Lorraine had ever done. She was spending her final weeks making sure I wouldn't be destroyed by the people I trusted most. "How do I do this?" I asked.
Jean Holloway has everything. The trust, the will, the investment accounts, all protected. No one can touch anything without your explicit consent. The children don't know about the trust. They don't know about the investments. They only know what we've told them, that we're comfortable. We've never given them numbers."
"So I just tell them it's gone?"
You tell them it's gone. And then you watch. You document. You write in this journal the way I've been writing in it. And when you've seen enough, when you know the truth about each of them, you go to Gene. He'll know what to do.
"How will I know when I've seen enough?"
Lorraine smiled, weak but real.
"You'll know, Edward. The truth has a way of being unmistakable."
Lorraine died on March 12th, 2023, at home, in our bed. I was holding her hand. Sophia was in the chair beside the bed, where she'd been sleeping for the last week. The room was quiet except for the sound of the oak tree outside the window, its branches tapping against the glass the way they always did when the wind picked up. Her last words to me were whispered, barely audible.
"Watch them, Edward, and write it down."
The funeral was on a Saturday. All 4 children came. Daniel drove down from Charlotte in his BMW. Rachel flew in from Brooklyn. Marcus showed up late, which was typical. Sophia had organized everything: the flowers, the readings, the reception at the house afterward. It was at the reception, standing in my own living room surrounded by people eating sandwiches and saying kind things about my wife, that I began the test. Daniel approached me first. He hugged me. A stiff, executive hug, the kind that says, "I'm here," without actually being present. "Dad, how are you holding up?" "I'm managing." "Listen, I know this isn't the time, but at some point we need to talk about Mom's affairs. The house, the accounts, insurance. There's a lot to sort out." "There's not much to sort out, Daniel." He looked at me. "What do you mean?" I took a breath. This was the moment. Lorraine had coached me on what to say it, how to look when I said it. Defeated. Tired. Like a man who'd lost everything. The medical bills took most of it. The treatments, the specialists, the hospital stays. Insurance covered some, but not enough. I had to liquidate the investments. The retirement fund is nearly gone. I took a second mortgage on the house to cover the last 3 months of treatment. Daniel's face went through a rapid transformation. Concern, confusion, then something harder. Something that looked like calculation. "How much is left?" "Almost nothing. Maybe $30,000 in savings. The house has a $180,000 mortgage on it now. The insurance policies. I had to let them lapse to pay for the treatments." "You let the life insurance lapse?" "I didn't have a choice, Daniel. It was the insurance premiums or your mother's medication." Daniel stared at me. I could see the numbers running behind his eyes. The inheritance he'd been counting on, gone. The house equity, mortgaged. The insurance payout, 0. "Dad, how could you let this happen? Why didn't you tell us? We could have helped." "Helped how? You've got your own expenses." We could have, I don't know, planned something, managed it better." He didn't say what he was thinking. He didn't need to. I could see it on his face. Managed it better meant managed it so there'd be something left for me. Daniel walked away. He pulled out his phone, and I watched him step into the hallway. He was calling someone, probably his financial advisor, probably asking about what happens when there's no estate to inherit. I wrote in the journal that night. Daniel's first question was about money. His second question was about the house. His third question was about insurance. He did not ask how I was going to live. Rachel found me in the kitchen an hour later. She was washing dishes. She always washed dishes, even at funerals. "Dad, Daniel told me about the finances." "It's bad, Rachel." "I know. He's pretty upset." "Are you?" Rachel stopped washing and looked at me. "Dad, I don't care about the money. I care about you. Can you afford to eat? Can you keep the lights on? Do you need me to send you something every month?" She was offering to help me. Rachel, who made $45,000 a year in one of the most expensive cities in America, was offering to send her father money. "I'll manage," I said. "Dad, I'm serious. I can do $500 a month. It's not much, but—" "Rachel, you don't need to do that." "Mom would want me to. She'd want to know you were taken care of." I hugged my daughter, and I felt something crack inside my chest. Not grief, not pain, but the sharp recognition that Lorraine had been right. This test was already working. Daniel had asked about the money. Rachel had offered hers. I wrote in the journal, Rachel offered $500 a month from a salary that barely covers her own rent. She did not ask about the house.
She did not ask about the insurance. She asked if I could eat. Marcus didn't approach me at the funeral at all. He ate 3 plates of food, talked to some cousins he hadn't seen in years, and left early. He texted me the next day.
"Hey, Dad. Sorry about Mom. Let me know if you need anything." I responded, "Thanks, Marcus. It's been tough. The finances are a mess." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. "Yeah, Daniel mentioned that. Pretty rough. Hey, can I borrow $2,000? I got behind on rent and my landlord's threatening eviction." My wife had been buried less than 24 hours, and my son was asking me for money. I stared at that text for 10 minutes. Then I wrote back, "Marcus, I just told you we have almost nothing left." "Yeah, I know, but this is an emergency. I'll pay you back." "I don't have it to give." He didn't respond. Not that day, not the next day, not for 2 weeks. When he finally called, it wasn't to check on me. It was to ask if I'd co-sign a loan. I wrote in the journal. Marcus texted 22 hours after Lorraine's funeral asking for $2,000. When told there was no money, he went silent for 14 days. His next contact was a request for me to co-sign a loan. He has not asked about my well-being once. Sophia was different from all of them. She came over the day after the funeral and didn't leave for a week. She cooked, she cleaned, she organized Lorraine's closet when I couldn't face it. She drove me to the doctor when I had a blood pressure spike from the stress. On the 3rd night, she sat with me on the porch, Lorraine's porch, where the test had been designed. "Dad, I know things are tight financially. I've been thinking, I can move in with you, split the bills, help with the mortgage. That way you don't have to worry about losing the house." "Sophia, you have your own apartment." "My apartment is $1,100 a month. If I move in here, that's $1,100 I can put toward helping you. Plus, I'd be closer to work. Plus, you wouldn't be alone." She wasn't asking for anything. She was offering to rearrange her entire life to help me keep a house she'd grow up in. Not because she wanted to inherit it, because she didn't want her father to lose it. I wrote in the journal. Sophia offered to move in and contribute $1,100 per month to help with bills. She did not mention inheritance. She did not ask about the estate. She offered to give, not to take. She is her mother's daughter. Over the next 3 months, the test deepened, and the results became increasingly clear. Daniel called once a week. Every call eventually circled back to the finances. He wanted to know the exact amount of the mortgage. He wanted to know if I'd considered selling. He wanted to know about the property taxes, the insurance, the maintenance costs. He never directly said, "Sell the house and give me the money," but every question was a brick in that road. Then, about 2 months after Lorraine's death, Daniel sent me an email, a formal email from his work address, with a subject line that read, "Family Financial Planning, Proposal." The email contained a 5-page document. He'd created a financial analysis of my situation, or what he believed my situation to be. Projected costs, revenue from a potential sale, recommended next steps. His recommendation? Sell the house, use the proceeds to pay off the mortgage, move into a small apartment, and distribute remaining equity to family members as an early inheritance to offset the shortfall from Mom's medical expenses. He wanted me to sell my house and give him money. He dressed it up in spreadsheets and professional language, but that's what it was. I forwarded the email to Jean Holloway. Jean's response was 3 words: "Save everything. Continue." Rachel called every Sunday. She never asked about money. She asked about me. How was I sleeping? Was I eating?
Had I gone to the doctor? Was I taking my blood pressure medication? She'd tell me about her week, a wedding she'd photographed, a new coffee shop she'd found, a funny thing her cat did.
And every month, like clockwork, $500 appeared in my bank account from Rachel. I told her to stop. She refused.
It's not negotiable, Dad. Mom would haunt me if I let you go hungry.
Marcus disappeared. After the cosign request, he went silent for 6 weeks. Then he resurfaced with a new strategy. He called me and said he'd been thinking about the family.
Dad, I've been talking to Daniel. He says the house is more than you can handle alone. And honestly, you're getting older. What if something happens to you? Wouldn't it make sense to sell now, while you can make decisions for yourself?
Are you suggesting I can't make decisions for myself?
No, I'm just saying. Daniel thinks, and I agree, that selling is the smart move. You could move somewhere smaller, maybe closer to one of us.
Closer to which one of you? The one who emails me financial proposals, or the one who asks me for money at his mother's funeral? Silence. Then,
That's not fair, Dad.
Isn't it?
Marcus hung up. I wrote in the journal. Sophia moved in just as she'd offered. She took her old bedroom. She split the bills, electric, water, groceries. She maintained the garden Lorraine had planted. She cooked dinner 3 nights a week. She never once mentioned the house as an asset. To her, it was home. Her parents' home. A place to be protected, not sold. One evening, about 4 months into the test, Sophia found me writing in the journal on the porch.
What are you writing, Dad?
Just thoughts, things your mother asked me to keep track of. Sophia sat down.
Dad, can I tell you something?
Always.
Daniel called me last week. He wanted me to convince you to sell the house. He said if we sell now, we could each get a share of the equity. He called it our inheritance advance.
What did you tell him?
I told him this is your house, and you'll live in it as long as you want. He told me I was being naive. He said I was wasting my life taking care of a man who has nothing left to give. The words landed like stones. Nothing left to give. That's how Daniel saw me. A depleted asset. A man with no remaining value. What did you say to that? I asked. I said Dad has plenty left to give, just not the kind of things you're interested in. I looked at my youngest daughter and saw Lorraine. Not her face, though Sophia had her mother's eyes. I saw Lorraine's character, the steadiness, the loyalty, the understanding that love is not transactional. I wrote in the journal that night. I filled 5 pages. 5 months after Lorraine's death, Daniel made his biggest move. He called a family meeting. All 4 siblings video call. He'd prepared an agenda, another document, another spreadsheet, another polished presentation. We need to talk about Dad's situation, Daniel began. The financials are worse than we thought. The mortgage is consuming most of his pension. He can't maintain the property. And frankly, the responsible thing to do is sell the house, settle the debts, and help Dad transition to something manageable. Rachel spoke first.
Dad's fine. Sophia's with him. He's managing.
He's not managing, Rachel. He's surviving. There's a difference. And when the furnace breaks or the roof needs replacing, he won't have the money to fix it. Marcus jumped in. Daniel's right. Dad needs to face reality. The house is too much.
The house is his home,
Sophia said quietly. The house is a liability, Daniel shot back. It's a $520,000 property with a $180,000 mortgage. That's $340,000 in equity sitting there doing nothing, while Dad eats canned soup. I don't eat canned soup, I said. Everyone went quiet. I'd been listening without speaking. Sophia cooks for me 3 nights a week. Rachel sends money every month. I'm not starving. Dad, that's not sustainable, Daniel said. What's not sustainable is this conversation. I'm not selling my house. This discussion is over. Dad, I said it's over, Daniel. The call ended badly. Daniel was angry. Marcus was frustrated. Rachel was quiet. Sophia squeezed my arm after I hung up. They're not going to stop, Dad. I know. What are you going to do? I'm going to keep watching. Your mother told me I'd know when I'd seen enough. I don't think I'm there yet. But I was close, and the final reveal came from a place I didn't expect. 6 months after Lorraine's death, I received a call from Gene Holloway, our lawyer. Edward, I need to tell you something. Daniel contacted me directly. He wanted to know about Lorraine's estate. He was asking about the trust, the will, the insurance policies. What did you tell him? I told him that estate matters were confidential between you and me. He didn't take it well. He threatened to hire his own lawyer to investigate. Can he do that? He can try, but the trust is airtight. Lorraine made sure of that. However, Edward, the fact that he's contacting your lawyer tells me he's suspicious. He may not believe the financial story you've been telling. What should I do? I think it's time. You've seen enough. Lorraine would agree. He was right. 6 months of watching, 6 months of documenting, 6 months of seeing my children stripped of pretense, exposed by the simple removal of money from the equation. I had everything I needed. The journal, now over 300 pages. The emails from Daniel, the text messages from Marcus, Rachel's monthly transfers, Sophia's daily presence. A complete record of who my children really were when they thought there was nothing to gain from loving me. I called a family meeting, a real one, in person, at the house on Ridgewood Avenue, Saturday morning. All 4 children. Daniel drove down from Charlotte. Rachel flew in from Brooklyn. Marcus showed up on time for the first time in his life, which told me he thought something was being distributed. Sophia made coffee and set out pastries, because that's what Sophia does. They sat in the living room, the same room where Lorraine had watched them grow up, the same room where she'd observed them, documented them, and finally designed a test to reveal them. I stood in front of my 4 children and said, I have something to tell you, and I need you to listen without interrupting. Daniel leaned forward. Marcus shifted in his seat. Rachel sat still. Sophia watched me with eyes that were already beginning to understand. 6 months ago, I told you that your mother's medical bills had wiped us out. I told you the investments were gone, the insurance had lapsed, and the house was mortgaged to the limit. None of that was true. The room went completely silent. Your mother and I have $1.2 million in assets. The house is paid off. The retirement fund is intact. The investments are performing well. Both life insurance policies are active. Your mother's policy paid out $200,000 last month. There is no second mortgage. There are no debts. There never were. Daniel's face drained of color. Marcus's mouth opened. Rachel blinked. Sophia let out a breath, a long, slow exhale, like she'd been holding it for months. Why? Daniel managed. Why would you lie to us? Because your mother asked me to. 3 weeks before she died, she designed a test. She wanted to know which of her children loved her family and which ones loved her money. She asked me to tell you we were broke and then watch what you did. I picked up the journal, Lorraine's journal, now continued in my handwriting. 300 pages of documented behavior.
I've been writing in this journal every day for 6 months. Every phone call, every text message, every email, every visit, every question asked, and every offer made. Your mother started it 3 years ago. I continued it after she died. I opened to the first post-funeral entry and began reading. March 15th, 2023. 3 days after Lorraine's funeral. Daniel's first question was about money. His second was about the house. His third was about insurance. He did not ask how I was going to live. Daniel went white. Dad, I was trying to help. I said no interruptions. I kept reading. March 16th. Marcus texted 22 hours after Lorraine's funeral asking for $2,000. When told there was no money, he went silent for 14 days. His next contact was a request to co-sign a loan. Marcus stood up. This is insane. You were spying on us? I was documenting. The way your mother documented for 3 years before me. Sit down, Marcus. He sat. March 18th. Rachel offered $500 a month from a salary that barely covers her own rent. She did not ask about the house. She did not ask about the insurance. She asked if I could eat. Rachel's eyes filled with tears. Not shame. Relief. The relief of someone who'd been living in a test they didn't know about and had passed. March 20th. Sophia offered to move in and contribute $1,100 per month to help with bills. She did not mention inheritance. She did not ask about the estate. She offered to give, not to take. Sophia was crying silently. I read more. I read Daniel's 5-page email proposing I sell the house and distribute remaining equity. I read Marcus's texts, the ones asking for money, the weeks of silence when told there was none, the sudden reappearance when he needed something. I read the record of Daniel contacting Jean Holloway behind my back. And I read the record of Rachel's monthly $500 deposits. Every single one. 6 months. $3,000 total. Money she couldn't afford, sent without being asked, without conditions, without expectation of return.
And I read Sophia's daily acts, the cooking, the cleaning, the garden maintenance, the doctor's visits, the quiet companionship of a daughter who moved into her childhood bedroom to make sure her father wasn't alone. When I finished reading, the room was different. The air had changed. 4 children sat in front of me, and they were no longer the same family they'd been 30 minutes earlier. Daniel spoke first. His voice was thin. Dad, I was concerned about your financial situation. Everything I did was to help. You emailed me a proposal to sell my house and distribute the equity. You called my lawyer behind my back. You told Sophia she was wasting her life taking care of a man with nothing left to give. That's not help, Daniel. That's extraction. Daniel had no response. Marcus tried next. Dad, I was going through a rough patch. I needed money. That's not a crime. Your mother was buried less than a day when you asked me for $2,000. You didn't ask how I was grieving. You didn't ask if I was eating. You asked for money. And when I said I didn't have it, you disappeared. For 2 weeks. Because a father with no money wasn't worth your time. Marcus looked at the floor. I turned to Rachel. Rachel, you sent me $500 every month. You earn $45,000 a year in Brooklyn. That money was a sacrifice. A real one. Rachel wiped her eyes. It wasn't a sacrifice, Dad. It was basic. You're my father. I know. And that's exactly the point. I turned to Sophia. You gave up your apartment. You moved into your childhood bedroom. You cooked, you cleaned, you drove me to the doctor. You maintained your mother's garden. You did all of this believing there was nothing to inherit. No house, no money, no reward. I didn't do it for a reward, Sophia said quietly. I did it because you're my dad, and Mom asked me to take care of you. When did she ask you that? The night before she died. She held my hand and said, Sophia, take care of your father. Not because he'll need money, because he'll need love. I closed the journal. The room was silent except for the sound of the oak tree outside, its branches tapping the window the way they always did. Here's what's going to happen, I said. I've spoken with Jean Holloway. Your mother's trust is clear about the distribution of our assets, but she left the final allocation to my discretion based on what I observed during this period. I looked at each of my children. The house stays mine. I will live here until I choose not to. That is not negotiable. Rachel, your mother designated $250,000 for you. It's in the trust. You'll receive it immediately. She also wrote you a letter, which Jean has. Rachel covered her mouth with her hand. Sophia, your mother designated $350,000 for you, plus the house when I eventually pass. She wrote that you earned it. Not through money, but through presence. You showed up, every day, without agenda. That is worth more than any inheritance, and your mother wanted you to know she saw it. Sophia broke, completely. She put her face in her hands and sobbed. The kind of crying that comes from being truly seen by a parent, even after that parent is gone. Daniel. My oldest son looked at me with an expression I'd never seen. Fear. Your mother designated $50,000 for you. She noted in her instructions that this amount reflects the proportional value of the relationship as demonstrated during the test period. She also recommends that you use it to pay off personal debts rather than acquiring new ones. Daniel's jaw tightened. $50,000. A fraction of what he'd expected. A fraction of what he'd calculated in those spreadsheets and proposals. That's not, he started. It's what your mother decided, based on evidence. Based on 3 years of her observations and 6 months of mine. Marcus. My third son was staring at the floor. Your mother designated $25,000 for you. She noted that this amount exceeds what was warranted by your behavior but reflects her love for you despite your choices. She asks that you use it responsibly and that you seek professional help for your financial patterns. Marcus didn't speak. He just sat there staring at the floor, processing the reality that his mother had documented his failures from beyond the grave. Each of you also has a sealed letter from your mother. Jean Holloway will distribute them today. I don't know what they say. Lorraine wrote them privately and asked that I not read them. I set the journal on the coffee table. This journal, your mother's entries and mine, will be kept by Jean Holloway as part of the trust documentation. It's a record, a complete, honest record of how each of you behaved when you thought there was nothing to gain. I looked at my 4 children one last time. Your mother didn't do this to punish you. She did it to protect me. And she did it because she believed that the truth, no matter how painful, is always better than a comfortable lie. The room stayed silent for a long time. Then Sophia stood up, walked to me and hugged me. Rachel joined her. 2 daughters, holding their father, in a house their mother had built into a fortress of truth. Daniel left that afternoon. He drove back to Charlotte without saying goodbye. He called me 3 days later. The conversation was short, stiff, but it was a beginning. Dad, I'm sorry. I don't know what else to say. I'm sorry. I know, Daniel. Your mother knew too. The letter she wrote me. I read it. She wasn't angry. She was disappointed. That's worse. Disappointment is worse because it means she expected better from you. And she did, Daniel. She always did. Marcus called a week later. He was quieter than I'd ever heard him. He said he was looking into financial counseling. He said he was going to try to be different. I told him I hoped so. I told him his mother would want that. Rachel used part of her inheritance to open a photography studio in Brooklyn. She called it Lorraine's, a small sign above the door with her mother's name. She still sends me $500 a month. I've asked her to stop. She refuses. Sophia stayed. She's still here, in her old bedroom, in our house on Ridgewood Avenue. She maintains Lorraine's garden. She cooks dinner 3 nights a week. She drives me to the doctor. She does all the things she did when she thought I had nothing, because the money was never the point. One evening, about 3 months after the truth came out, Sophia and I were sitting on the porch. She was quiet, the kind of quiet that means something important is forming. Dad, did you ever doubt what Mum asked you to do? Every day. Lying to my own children was the hardest thing I've ever done. But you did it. Because your mother asked me to. And because she was right. She was always right. Do you think Daniel and Marcus will ever really change? I don't know. I hope so. Your mother hoped so too. That's why she gave them something, not nothing. Because even in her disappointment, she left the door open. That's the most Mum thing I've ever heard. I smiled. It really is. Today, it's been 10 months since the truth was revealed. The house on Ridgewood Avenue is quiet most days. Sophia and I have dinner together. Rachel calls on Sundays. Daniel calls on Wednesdays. Shorter conversations than I'd like, but they're happening. Marcus checks in sporadically, which is progress. Lorraine's garden is thriving. Sophia planted new hydrangeas this spring. Blue ones, Lorraine's favorite. They bloom along the back fence, bright and stubborn, refusing to be anything other than beautiful. I sit on the porch most evenings, in Lorraine's chair, with Lorraine's journal on the table beside me. I don't write in it much anymore. The test is over. The truth has been told. The allocations have been made. The letters have been read. But sometimes, when the wind moves through the oak tree and the branches tap against the window, I open the journal to Lorraine's first entry, dated 3 years before her death, written in her perfect handwriting. Edward doesn't see it yet, but I do. I see which of our children come home for us, and which ones come home for what we have. I'm going to find out for certain, and when I do, I'm going to make sure Edward is protected. Because that's what love does. It prepares. It documents. It watches. And when the time comes, it tells the truth. She was right. She was always right. And to you listening to this story, I want to say something. Money doesn't change people. It reveals them. The way my children behaved when they thought there was nothing to gain wasn't a new version of themselves. It was the truest version. The version that exists when the mask of expectation is removed. If you want to know who truly loves you, take away the incentive. Take away the inheritance, the house, the savings. Tell them there's nothing left. And then watch. Watch who stays. Watch who shows up. Watch who offers their last $500 and who asks for $2,000. The ones who stay are the ones who love you. I'm Edward Marsh. I'm 67 years old. I live in a house on Ridgewood Avenue with my youngest daughter, and the memory of a woman who loved me enough to design a test I didn't want to take. And I'm grateful. Not for the money, for the truth. If this story touched you, I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below. Tell me which child you related to most. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe for more stories about family, truth, and the kind of love that doesn't let you look away. Before we close, a gentle reminder. This story, like all stories on this channel, contains fictional elements crafted for entertainment and educational purposes. If this type of content isn't for you, that's completely okay. Take care of yourselves. But if you stayed until the end, thank you. Lorraine would have liked you. She always liked people who paid attention to the details.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go check on the hydrangeas. Sophia says they need watering. She's probably right. She's her mother's daughter after all.